What's up? What's up? What is up? You know what it is. It's another Friday, another opportunity to get together and record live the Ball Hog Sports Talk. If you have never been a part of this experience, fasten your seatbelt and get ready to have a grand old time. Today's episode is going by the title of Come Back Home. And we chose this title because it's October. And every time you talk to a friend, it seems like they use that word homecoming. It seems like they are going to their homecoming. I don't care what school they went to. I don't care how good or bad their team is. Everybody's going to homecoming. At the youth football level, we have homecoming. So I did a little digging and I looked at the history of the homecoming, and the earliest beginnings of it were back in the 1900s. And it was indeed for alumni to come back to games and for people to come home to their college. Well, today's episode, we're going to dive into a whole different level of come back home. We'll give a little bit of a history lesson of homecoming, but most importantly, we're going to talk about sports, business, entertainment, the only way that we do it, which is rough, rugged, and raw. So fasten your seatbelt. The Ball Hog Sports Talk is coming to you, and let's go. Wake up, wake up, wake up, and stay woke, because this is the Ball Hog Sports Talk with your boy, B. Brown, ESQ, a.k.a. the Ball Hog, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South. This is the place where sports, business, and entertainment collide. And we're going to give it to you rough, rugged, and raw, so come get you a spoonful, like some grits with butter and salt. You know how we do it in the South, y'all. Make sure you do not get caught in your feelings. Strap on your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. Come on, let's go. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We in the building. You know who it is. The Big Flow Show coming from the Central Time Zone. What's up, my brother?
What's good, America? What's good, America?
All of America. All y'all.
America,
I'm talking about anybody and everybody. Love it. Everybody. My man ETP coming from the Eastern Time Zone. What's up, my brother?
Just enjoying life, man. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Ball Hog Sports Talk.
I love it, man. Look, ETP Ellis, the producer, we got you on high alert today. He gonna be doing double duty because he always gives us good content, but he gonna bring us some good stuff today on the production side, like always. And we gonna hop in, man. Today's episode is Come Back Home. And for me, I wanted to look into exactly what it means when we think of homecoming, because to everybody it has a different meaning. To everybody, it conjures different images when they hear the phrase homecoming. And so I started looking into the history of it and doing all that good stuff, and that was fun. And what's up, man? My man Mike Zorn, who I went to high school with his wife. I think that's who that is. I'll make sure. Yes, I went to high school with his wife. He says next week at STA, hope to see, you better believe, the illustrious St. Thomas Aquinas of the greater Fort Lauderdale, Florida area is having its homecoming next week. But every school, even if you're someone that went to a different school, not as prominent in the football ranks in high school, you probably still have a homecoming. Even if you're someone that went to a predominantly white institute in terms of football, you have a homecoming. We're going to talk about that as it pertains to Notre Dame. Even if you went to an HBCU, it's notorious for its fun homecomings. I remember Biggie used to talk about Howard homecoming. That was a lyric. That was a bar. And I was too young to really experience it. But now I'm older. I've experienced it. I remember going to Tennessee State's homecoming. And we had a grand old time. Very different than Notre Dame's campus. But homecoming.
Well, we didn't have, that's the weird thing. Notre Dame, we didn't have homecoming. We had pep rally for every home game. But
we had pep rally. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to get into that.
Hey, I got to check your boy Wesley, though. Hey, Wesley, you don't come into a room and speak to one person.
Yeah.
That's not how we do things on the Ball Hog Sports Talk.
That's my brother there. What's up, good brother?
I mean, I don't care about that. You don't see me and Easton there. We're just gonna walk in here and just speak to me. And
he might not like y'all. Y'all team light skin, man.
I appreciate
he on our side.
I appreciate that.
For those of you who first time, we just joking. Our colorism is not real. It is all for fun. But homecoming, it conjures up different ideas. But we are gonna get into the depths of homecoming. And I felt as though while I've done the research, I was not equipped to really give a rundown of homecoming. While I had done the research, let me make sure I send this out to people because people want me to send it every week so they get the live version. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do my part. But while I was doing my research, I realized that.
Good morning, Wesley.
Good morning, Wesley.
Morning,
nice to meet you.
For those of you guys on the podcast universe that don't get to see us, Wesley Mark Morrow's a listener comes in and just says, "B, what's up?" And I'm like, man, that's what's up. You don't see me and Easton here, so he came back and
took issue with that. I appreciate
I took a little issue with that, man. It's early. I get up earlier than everybody else. Do this.
That's an upstanding citizen for
that's
you.
Upstanding. He came back. He stood on the square. He came back on the square.
The people I hang with are good people. But I had to go to the great philosophical state of Florida. I had to make sure that I went and got someone with a PhD in pep talk. He's got a master's degree in ish talk. He talks about himself in the third person, but this man has done what I think is a whole different level of good for explaining what it means when you hear the word homecoming. With no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and rats, if you want to hear about homecoming, make sure you perk up, pay close attention to this lecture of homecoming. ETP, let them see what it is.
It costs you something. You're going to have to give something to get something. And I'm sitting up here looking at the situation with the football game. I understand the fans paying because they paying to be a fan. I understand the referees because they're officiating the game. Even the people, just in case you get hurt, they on standby. I even understand the coaches because they coach. I understand the cheerleaders, they have responsibility, and the band is for your entertainment. But there's one common denominator that ain't paid nothing. We've been paying ever since last spring. Then we paid all summer. We've been here all summer. We paid all fall. Then the last 4 games we have paid. Then this the 5th one. And we know the price. These folks gonna invite us to a homecoming, and they don't understand you got to pay to play this game the level that we paying. All we ask for is a little respect. All we ask for is just to do what we've earned. Just give us what we deserve. You didn't want to give us tickets. You didn't want to give us parking passes. You didn't want to give us nothing. So therefore, we got to go take it.
Yeah.
I don't need to say no more. Give me my darn theme music. It costs you something. You're going to have to give something to get something. And I'm sitting up here looking at the situation.
Yeah, it was so good. So nice. You almost played it twice. That's prime time for those of you who don't know.
Sometimes I had to put a soundtrack to a little beat on the back. Like he could
Yellow Beezy. They put Yellow Beezy in the back. But here's the thing. Let's break this down, guys. Because look, I was never a fan of primetime. I grew up a University of Miami fan. He was on the Florida State side of that particular rivalry. So I didn't really like him. But I gotta respect how he broke down homecoming. Let's go bar by bar, if you will, because it did sound like a hot track. And I'm sure it's gonna be on somebody's highlight tape. But he started with everything in life costs you something. You gotta give something to get something. And while he went through all of these different groups of people that we'll get to, he went through the fans. The fans had to pay admission. He went through the referees. We're gonna talk about them because the referees are under examination. He talked about the coaches. The coaches had to coach, and this is where we're gonna start because there were 2 coaches in 2 very different situations. So we'll start there. But then he went talk about the cheerleaders and the band. But let's go with the coaches, because in this scenario, 2 coaches arrived at that moment with 2 very different situations going on. Eddie Robinson Jr., with the legacy that his father created, with the legacy that he continued as a player, both at the collegiate and the NFL level, and what he has now continued as a coach, comes in coaching Alabama State. What Deion took issue with, for those to get just a little bit of background, if that's the first time you saw it, is that they invited them to play on homecoming. If you have never understood what that really means, I'm going to break it down to you. You normally schedule the game, your homecoming game. You schedule a team that you think you can beat. Why? Because everybody is going to come back home. You got the alumni there. It's a big old party. You want it to be festive. The last thing you want to do is get your head bashed in on homecoming and mess up the party. So Deion's taking issue with the fact that his team, Jackson State, was invited to be the homecoming opponent for Alabama State. The reason he's really taking issue with that, and he talked about, is that this is a pay game. A pay game is normally like when Marshall played Notre Dame. We talked about it. It was a pay game. They got 1.5 or whatever, $2 million because Notre Dame thought that they were going to win. Marshall ruined our party. Somebody else got beat that week. Texas A&M got beat by who that week? I don't remember. They got beat by a team they shouldn't have lost to. It was supposed to be a pay game. I forgot who Texas A&M lost to.
Middle Tennessee State? No, or was that?
Was it Middle Tennessee State? No, Middle Tennessee State beat Miami. That was also a pay game. But my point is that PrimeTime is mad that they were invited to play homecoming. So these two Goliaths of HBCU coaching ranks get to this point, and they get to this conflict in very different situations. The reason I give that background is because I want to talk about it. We can talk about the incident itself. We'll start there. Do you think Eddie Robinson Jr. in the post-game handshake, this happened last week, and we didn't really talk about it? No. This is the first show that we've had an opportunity to talk about it, so we're still timely. Do you think Eddie Robinson Jr. was wrong? Eddie Robinson Jr. said that essentially we're not friends. You talked a lot of trash in the pregame. You've been saying all this stuff throughout the week, been sort of belittling us as a program. So when he went to go shake his hand, it wasn't just a handshake. He tried to give the bro hug, as Eddie Robinson Jr. referred to it in the post-game interview. So I'll start there. Was Eddie Robinson Jr. well within his right, and his response was adequate for the situation? I'll start with you, Big Flow Show, since you accuse me always starting with ETP. I'm starting with you, Central Time Zone. What you think?
Completely wrong. Football is such a great game because it parallels life, right? And we try to teach lessons through football. When I try to make parallels now in the business world, I always make them to football, and it's easy for people to understand. You try to teach these young men how to handle adversity with grace. First of all the dirty laundry he tried to air with Deion and what he did the first time, petty Pendergrass. You could have handled that with a phone call later and talk to him about it later. But it's a post-game hug. Everyone's supposed to do it. You come in there and you say, all right, win or lose, I'm going to be a gentleman, shake your hand, bro hug, whatever you want to do. For him to try to make a scene out of it and act like a baby. First of all, I would have laughed if I was Coach Prime. Like, I got you, big man, huh? You in your feelings now? We just beat you.
You would have laughed with a man hand in your chest. I know you well enough to know that I'm gonna call you out on that. I think you might be exaggerating. You would have laughed.
I would have been like, I would have clowned him. I would have been like, oh, you're in your feelings now? Is that what it is? You invite us from? I would have ran my mouth, but I would have. To me, when I make somebody frustrated, and really I know that they don't have any reason to be frustrated like that, I would get a laugh, a giggle out of it to do whatever. But I think he was wrong. He made himself look bad doing that.
You see how quick Deion got the hand off him though? Deion still got it. Deion
gets his hands off me.
Well, can't get jammed at the line, dog.
Yeah.
He sure had him. Hey, so look, let me.
And then he didn't want no smoke. He just walked away. It was a soft move. He looks soft.
What about Eddie Robinson Jr. also saying that Deion walked through the pregame line? He said that, all the lead up, he was very disrespectful. He then said that putting the backup quarterback in at a certain time in the game, they're up 26-12, I believe, and he's still trying. He tried to hitch and go. So he said, so we're going to blitz everybody. We're going to put him out of the game too. Does that give it a little more substance, ETP, knowing that that's the reason why he felt as though I'm going to shake your hand? To your point, Big Flow Show, you're the leader of young men. So he said he was going to shake his hand, but there's levels to the exchange when there's a shake. You know, we've all seen the parody with Obama and how he's shaking different hands. He's saying, "Don't give me the Obama bro hug. We ain't that." You think given the circumstances, does that validate it a little bit more, ETP?
Nah, I mean, everybody should know at this point, Deion Sanders as a showman, right? Like it's all with intention. It's all for publicity. Like everything he does, there's a method to his madness, and it's a very clear method, and it's a very clear objective. So to be a coach on the other side, I could understand there might be some, inferiority complex because they're not getting as much recognition. It's probably this guy just really feels like this, he started with the whole thing in the post game about he's not swag, right? Like that's why this whole thing became such a bigger issue, because he's saying that Deion just came in to this program and into this conference and he's trying to act like he owns it, when in reality, the amount of good and growth that he's created by being a presence and doing all of the marketing and being, as much of a spectacle and publicity driver as he is benefiting everybody, right? And it's been for the positive. But I can understand, you're a coach, you've been there, you've been grinding for a while, you haven't been getting the recognition, and then the new guy comes in and he's taking a lot of the spotlight. But at the end of the day, to the point, there's a level of professionalism, and you also have to know that all of that, it's like Ali and Frazier. We talked about this weeks ago. Like Ali and Frazier were friends, but you put the cameras on, you put the mic in front of them, they're talking about how they're gonna kill each other, and it's all for ticket sales, right? So after the game, you congratulate each other, you go your separate ways, take it like a man, and move on.
I hate when all three of us agree. So I want to play devil's advocate here, but I just can't. There's no way that I could justify that type of behavior. I like Eddie Robinson Jr. I think he's done a great job at Alabama State. Obviously, the namesake itself holds power when it comes to HBCUs. But I will go this. When I hear someone say, he ain't swag, that to me conjures up the same feeling of someone trying to own the concept of being black. None of us own it. Nobody owns what it means to be swag. You don't. Even if you went to a swag school. Okay, cool. You went to a swag school. What if I donate millions to swag? Does that make me swag? Yes, your father was notorious for what he did and what he built in the swag and beyond. But here it is, PrimeTime, an NFL Hall of Famer, someone that had PWI offers, someone that was in the booth and broadcasting, who absolutely positively needed that job like he needed a hole in his head. Deion's probably making, what, $300,000 for that job? And if you went pound for pound in terms of what I'm making based on how much time I'm putting in, Deion getting robbed, because he has built what is amazing. The time that he has put in to build what is now Jackson State is amazing. But even
and it's been 3 years too. It's been 3 years. It's not.
It's going into the third year.
It's going into the third 2.5 seasons, really, because they had that weird spring season during COVID. That was the first time that Alabama State beat them. And when they beat them, I think that was homecoming too. They put Deion's draft picture up when he was in a Jerry curl. They playing the music. And so now that the rabbit got a gun too, get out your feelings. And here's where this particular incident rubs me the wrong way, because all the good that Deion and all the people who've also made sacrifices to make Jackson State what it is, because it ain't just a one-man show, but all the good that has been done has been undermined, because when you put that flick on, when you see that exchange, when the cameras are rolling and people are playing that and analyzing, it's two black men acting a donkey while everybody else watching. And that's what's ticking me off most about it. But Deion, being PrimeTime, because he is a PhD in trash talk, he even turned that phrase or that rhetorical question, well, who is swag, into a hoodie, into his own little song, the memes. But we all are swag. I would love to go to an HBCU. I've said that several times, man. And my mother, my sister went to HBCU. I would love to go to HBCU. Back then, I ain't gonna give my age, but back then, the options to choose between playing at a school like, I was visiting some of the Power Fives, but eventually went to Notre Dame. Playing at Notre Dame and playing at the school that I was really looking at the time was my mom's alma mater, Bethune-Cookman. It used to be Bethune-Cookman College. Now it's Bethune-Cookman University. Those two options were night and day. Night and day might not even describe how different those options were. Because of all the work that the people have put in, and not just Deion, Eddie Robinson Jr. as well, those options aren't as drastic anymore. Because of name, image, and likeness, those options aren't as drastic anymore. So if there's ever a time that the image of HBCU football deserves to be protected and treated the right way, it's now. There's significantly more eyes on that game than ever in the past. There are primetime, pun intended, slots used for those games now. So that's what ticked me off about it. I think Eddie Robinson Jr., in the moment, I'm fine with it because emotions are high and you were upset. But then to carry out the nonsense in the post game, that's where I'm like, bro, somebody should have pulled you to the side and you should have just apologized. You know what? That was my bad. Deion's going to be Deion, and made it about Alabama State. Instead, you did what Deion wanted you to do. You made it about Deion. More broadly, the state of HBCU football versus PWI football. We said all the things, the primetime slots. Deion got the number one player in a class to choose HBCU over a PWI. The PWI being his own alma mater, right? That kid chose Jackson State over Florida State. Pretty impressive, all right? Name, image, and likeness. I mean, you can go anywhere and get paid. So where are we 3 years into the Deion era? And I'm only going to make the Eddie Robinson Jr.'s of the world more angry by calling it the Deion era and making it about Deion. But I think it gives us a good time frame to say, has there been change? Where are we now? I'll start with you on this one, ETP.
I mean, there's been plenty of change, and I think it's the name, image, and likeness, like we talked about, that thing has been, we talked about this early on, probably before it was even really major news, about how it could balance the playing field or level the playing field in terms of recruits, where, I mean, Deion's son has a beat, Shedeur Sanders, obviously, high performing athlete, goes to Jackson State, has a Beats by Dre deal, has just signed with Tom Brady's clothing line. That's the only athlete endorsement that Tom Brady has for his clothing line. That's up and coming. So the amount of recognition, exposure, growth, and opportunities for players in the HBCU category, it helps. And obviously, like, Deion who's created this, and then you also have other former pro players or pro coaches. You got Eddie George is at Tennessee State. You got Hugh Jackson. So it's all starting to to come together. But I think there's always going to be a resource issue. I mean, there's a major lawsuit right now with one of the HBCUs about how they've been underfunded for many years. I don't know the name of it offhand, but there's a lot of complexity to how HBCUs operate because they've been subsidized by the government for so long for obvious reasons based on the history, and so the resources are limited. But the athlete opportunities are improving.
I am a part of that lawsuit.
FAMU is the law. Yeah.
That is my law firm, and I am a very integral part of that lawsuit. So I'm going to leave it there without talking about it more, at the risk of being Deion and people think I'm doing it for self. But I am proud that we are doing something in that category when it comes to underfunding. When it comes to the football part of it, there have been generations and generations of athletes that felt as though the HBCU experience wasn't an option, right? Is that different now? Big Flow Show, you just went through the recruiting process. Your son chose a PWI or a Power 5 or whatever we want to call it. We'll call it PWI for this conversation. Let's say he comes to you, and this is hypothetical. He's graduated. He looks like an NFL prospect to a certain degree and says, I want to spend my last year at Jackson State. Right? Where do you see it as a parent that just participated in the process and the recruiting? Where are the HBCU programs relative to the experience that you had while being recruited by primarily PWI programs? What say you?
Well, neither one of us, myself nor my son, got recruited by HBCUs, so I don't know what their process is. I did see some guys posting offers from Alcorn State. One of the kids my son grew up with had at Alcorn State. Howard recruited a couple people. They gave a couple offers to some people that we heard. One of my white friend's sons got I think Jackson State offered him, which was pretty interesting. But I don't know. I mean, they never. It was never in the equation, to be honest. I don't have a history with it. I'm a first generation American, so I don't have any family members that went there. So I don't have a long history of my mom or dad went to this or my aunt went there. Nobody went to an HBCU, so I don't know. As you mentioned. When you started the question was, if my son's last year, he said, hey, I wanted to transfer to Jackson State or something like that after he got his degree. Yeah, if that's what he wants to do. I support it and see what's going on. I think that by the time my son being a true freshman, by the time he's a redshirt senior or whatever that would be, a grad transfer, I can only imagine how far they'll go. This whole project will have either failed or it will blow up. And I don't
think it's possible to fail. You think so?
I don't think it's possible, but I was going to say that. I mean, it's option A, option B. It's either something bad's going to happen, it's going to blow up. See, the only thing I think that'll be bad is if, and I think this has a chance of happening. Prime keeps winning, and a PWI comes and takes him as a coach, and he leaves. I think that's a slap in the face of the whole process.
That's what Eddie Jordan, but not Eddie Jordan. I'm sorry, Eddie Robinson Jr. alluded to that. He said, "I hope he don't take one of them Power 5 jobs." Because I want to whoop him next year. Now, the competitor in him was talking, but there was something in that message that he would even say that says, all right, that's what you think. He's just here to, to do what he needs to do for him and his family and move on. We talked about, you started by saying the limited resources, and we did mention the case. So I'll refer to it for one split second and then get back to sports business entertainment. But the case is about the resources that all students, limited resources that all students have to acknowledge when they compare a PWI like Florida State that is literally right across the tracks from an HBCU like FAMU. And any student, athlete or non-athlete, when comparing those resources would probably, if they have both options, all else being equal, the resources matter. I give that quick reference there to now talk about football. In our day, at the risk of sounding like Methuselah, in our day, the resources were so different that all else wasn't the same. You know what I'm saying? Like when guys ended up at HBCUs in our day, normally it's just that things just didn't go well at the Power 5, PWI school. So they ended up going to play for HBCU. It was a very different alternative. Now the resources aren't quite the same, but if you got that big eye in the sky, that camera, and you playing in prime time, and your goal is to play in the NFL, you can do that at an HBCU.
And you've always been able to do that from an HBCU.
Significantly more opportunity now, though, Big Flo. Yes, you've always been able to do it.
Fair enough. Especially now when you have these players that are going in there. Fair, you're right. It's a better opportunity than it was now, but it's still it still dampens your opportunity right now. It's still not equal based on the training facilities, the nutrition, all the different things that go into, when kids go to college, we all hear about those stories of guys went off to college and they're like, man, this dude hit the training table and he hit the weights and he looks like a different person. I still think the PWIs have a better chance of transforming you than the HBCUs do in that regard, which I think contributes to your opportunity to make it. So stats don't lie. At the end, well, they do. I shouldn't say stats don't lie. They do lie. But I still think you're making a sacrifice in some regards to do it. And hats off to you if you do. I mean, that the kid who is number one player in the nation, he's gonna make it. It doesn't matter. It's the kid that is kind of borderline, not the tallest for his position, not the fastest, not this, not that. That gets a little bit of a higher nod.
Right.
When he goes if he can get on the field at Bama, then he does. If he gets on the field at Tennessee State,
we agree there. We agree there. I just think that we are running full speed in a direction that is going to make those options a lot more balanced.
But you didn't address this, and you were going to. I want to get you back. Is if Prime leaves and he goes to an HBCU, a PWI, a Power 5 thing. What does it say about the message that he's been giving to people to get them not to go to Power 5s and then to come to Jackson State? I think it messes things up. I think I
don't think he'll do that because he's had several opportunities to do it. Everyone is suspected. I said at the beginning, I am guilty of accusing Prime of doing this just for Prime. I have officially backed off of that statement. As of the last few weeks, I was guilty of that. And this episode, Come Back Home, like that's what Prime did, right? He came back home in a sense that he went to go coach in an HBCU environment for his people, amongst his people. What he's done for the city of Jackson, I get it. Prime is a prima donna, Jerry curl dripping to the core. And so we all think of it as just being a showman. And I see my man, what's up, Big Phil, says, that Eddie Robinson Jr. exposed him for being fake. And I don't know that he did. I think that the things that he was saying is that, you shouldn't try to, here, I'll read it. It says, you didn't want to be a friend, even in our history of knowing each other. You try to score with 43 seconds left. Keep your bro hug. I don't want it. I don't think that's keeping it real because at the end of the day, he then went on to say, I hope his son wins the Heisman. You don't sound like you hope his son wins the Heisman. You then went on to say that, he's done good things for HBCUs. How, when in the same interview, you say he ain't swag? Our blackness, our swagness, the things that are genuinely ours is not for any one person to define. Deion did exactly what I was suggesting potentially your son could do. He came back home. Deion didn't need this job. And if he did it for his sons as a father of two boys, well, God bless him.
Well, that's the piece. Go ahead.
I'm going to come to you because, first of all, I think Eddie Robinson Jr. threw out some accusations that normally we would have just had to believe. But because Deion is always followed by a camera, is always mic'd up, and this is the part I want to link, because he's chosen as his social media person, his own damn son. I'm with it. This is not the black father. I hope he doesn't leave because I think this will be his only coaching job. And then he's done coaching. He's going to go back to being Prime, which was making a ton of money doing stuff outside of this, whether it be Aflac or being on TV. But I don't think it's a failed thing if he does because he would leave it in a much better situation than he came. My bad for interrupting, ETP. I go to you.
No, well, so no, your second point is important, right? Because ultimately, he's there. His sons are there, right? So we know that there's whether it's a primary or a secondary motive or objective, he's has an opportunity to develop his sons in the college space, build up, all of the, the brand and the equity and all of that in a controlled environment where he's kind of has carte blanche to do that. Whereas if they went to another bigger school or, he wasn't the coach, then that's not the situation. So the real moment of truth, I think, and it may not even really be the moment of truth because by the time his youngest son graduates, he'll have been the coach for what, 5-6 years at this point?
5 years. The youngest one is the quarterback. The older one is the defensive back who transferred from South Carolina, who also, in my opinion, came back home. He left from a PWI in the SEC to transfer to Jackson State University to play with his dad and his brother. The sister is playing basketball there. The other brother is the social media, coordinator or whatever for Jackson State football program.
Right. So all that to
one.
say, all good context, but all that to say is once that all passes through the system, then we'll know what the situation is, because there's no other motive to keep him at the school or be coaching that organization. And as soon as he puts them through to the pro ranks or whatever they do postgraduate, and then he decides that he's going to go coach Florida State or whatever school, and he leaves immediately, then there's reason to believe that it was, it had a very specific objective and he wrote it out.
I'm in any coaching conversation, because we talked about it versus NIL. And I said, all these coaches go leave and take the next opportunity that's best for them and their family. I always say, I ain't never going to knock a man for doing what's best for his family. Right. But we felt as though that the players should have that same amount of leverage and leeway to go do what they needed to do if they need to from the transfer portal standpoint. And what my statement was is they need to at least be able to make money. So if Deion does that, cool. But the fact that it is centered around his sons, like for me, this week, this episode has a lot of meaning, right? And I started with Deion. You can almost guarantee that there's portions of that pep talk, that pregame, that I'm going to use this week for my team, my 11U team. Why? Because we're going to go play the team that East Orange Junior Jaguars that I've coached for 5 years. Why did I make the decision to go to the new program? It's because I did it for my sons. I wanted them to be an opportunity to do some things with some other players, have a lot more talent around them, to go and compete, have a guy in your spot that you got to compete against. I did it for my sons. The people at my old program that know me and that we are friends, they ain't mad at me. Why? Because I did what was right for my sons. The thing that I didn't like, sort of the elephant in the room, it sounded like jealousy and bitterness, and it felt as though, man, the crabs in the barrel theory was in full display with Eddie Robinson Jr. I don't know Eddie Robinson. I don't know what his motivation was for getting upset in that moment. I'm just telling you what it sounded like to me. God forbid a man goes and does something great for his family, and in the meantime, blesses an entire university, blesses an entire conference, blesses an entire concept of HBCU versus PWI as an option for top elite athletes. If we got there because of selfish reasons, and doing stuff for your family by definition isn't selfish, but selfish for the Sanders family, I'm still okay with that. I am.
Yeah, ultimately, I mean, if at the end of the day, if he leaves tomorrow, he's made great impact, positive impact on the entire conference, right? And the entire concept of HBCUs as viable locations to go and thrive in a sports capacity. So if he leaves tomorrow, you can't really slight him for any of it. But all I'm saying is there's context to what happens. He's not going to leave now because his kids are keeping him tethered to the whole university. Once they go, now it's a question of like, is he really trying to build an empire here, or was he trying to use this as a stepping stone because he was overlooked for these other larger school coaching positions, and he now has a resume point that's going to help him get to those, to those other programs.
Right. We'll just
exactly what you're saying.
Exactly
what you're saying. He tried to get the Florida State job, but they fired Taggart or whatever that guy was. They overlooked him, and he couldn't do it. For all practical purposes, you could say he just wasn't able to get a Power 5 job. So he said, all right, I'm going to go to Jackson State, and I'm going to go turn that around and do whatever. He turns it around. But in that process, I guarantee with some of these players he's getting, he said, you don't need to go to a PWI. Come to the SWAC. We love you. We're this. You don't need that.
Yeah.
You're coming to us. Who cares about all that? I know you're the number one player in the nation. You go anywhere you want to go. Who cares? Come here. These are your people. Some game spit like that. So if you leave and you go to a PWI after saying that kind of shit to get this thing built up, it's a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth.
Look,
it's a
and
stepping
we'll
stone because we took you because nobody wanted. So that's just the way I look at it. He can do what he has to do is best for his family. I'm just saying there's going to be a lot of people with some side eye, and I haven't been part of those conversations, but I guarantee I know how they went. You had to say that. There had to be some element of us versus them that you're making a conversation to get them to come to Jackson State, and then you go join them, the people that you said were them. Now, if he's at Akron, of course you're leaving for a better school. I take what I got. But in this situation, you're trying to revitalize it. Now, in the long run, if that happens in like 5 or 6 years, and he ends up going to Florida State, and he's like, "That's my alma mater. My job is done here, and everything's fine." I get it. I can see it. It's just the timing of it's going to have to be right for him to do.
Yeah, and I think the timing. I think it's like he has to get to. I think for it to be clean, he has to build this program, or this program has to be built up to a point where it's now competing and playing ranked teams, and maybe they win 1 or 2, and it's like legitimate. And then he's like, "Look, there's no difference, right?
Yeah,
right.
You know."
Yeah, I'll end it here, man, because I think you guys did a great job. First, before I make this last statement when it comes to this particular situation, like we ask you every week, humbly we ask you, please like, please comment, please share, please tag a friend, please tag a foe, if you will, tag anybody that you know, and please subscribe to both our podcast and to our YouTube channel. Share it, y'all. Get us out there and help us out. Ain't gonna cost you nothing but a click. I think we timed it at 0.8 seconds to share. All right, so that's all it's gonna cost you is 0.8 seconds.
Slow figures.
You got how did his speech start? You got to get everything in life costs. You got to give something to get something. All right. And in this case, I put Scott Biz back up because that idea that he ain't SWAC comment implies that every coach in the SWAC should be a former HBCU alum or SWAC alum. To me, that is crazy. And we've heard it in different areas. In Newark, right, to be a politician, they ask repeatedly, or they make statements. Are you not from Newark? It's only us that think like that. People use resources from outside of a particular city, from outside of a particular company. That's how companies have been built, not based on the person that was 1 or 2 as a founder. They're built by hiring people from outside and learning from different resources. We are the only ones that think that not the only ones, but when it comes to this conversation, HBCUs versus PWIs, when it comes to that particular interview and hearing his tone, man, it feels like crabs in the barrel to me. All right, let's hop on because there's another fight. We're talking about come back home. And we saw it happen last week. We didn't address it because we wanted more details. We don't like to just point out things before we got more details, but there was a video that surfaced after the fact that made it a lot clearer what happened. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, the video this week, the best video this week had to be Draymond Green and Jordan Poole. Draymond Green, Jordan Poole, they're in a dispute, they're in a debate, and Jordan Poole must have thought it was sweet. And Draymond Green didn't. He punches him, knocks him out. It's the punch that's been heard around the world. Some call it a sucker punch. And let's just start and diving in sort of on the optics behind it, because then the Warriors go to decide, they go on and decide that they're not going to suspend Draymond Green. They're not going to suspend Draymond Green, but they are absolutely looking for the person that divulged or leaked the video. So where do we go from here in terms of the fight itself? And then what does it look like when, sort of the optics, when you're more aggressive in prosecuting the leaker of the film,
the whistleblower,
than the star of the film? And let's go through this one quickly because we're going to get to some, for those of you who still with us, we still going to get to some good stuff. We about to talk about these quarterbacks and how they can't get tackled anymore. We're going to talk about Davante Adams and his push of the cameraman. We got the Redeem Team. For those of you who haven't seen Redeem Team, you got to hear this conversation. So let's just touch on Draymond here for a second, him and Jordan Poole. Where do we go from here? I think I started with you last time, ETP. Big Flow Show. What did you think of the film and the response to it quickly?
I don't like that the tape got out. So let me start with that. I don't like the video got out. That's in-house stuff, But once we saw it, it's kind of like anything. You can't unring a bell. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. Mm-hmm. He hit him, and you have to deal with it now. So I think whatever their response.
I'm sorry. Before I tee that, I'm interrupting you because I forgot to be my Deion. Each one of these, because he gave us a table of contents. You have to pay to play this game at the level that we play it. That's why Steve Kerr got punched by Jordan.
Yeah.
The Golden State Warriors are playing at a certain level. You have to pay to play this game at the level that we play, and sometimes that's conflict.
And the reason
so now
why
that
Jordan,
my Deion setup is good, now I'll give it back to you.
The reason why Jordan doesn't take as much heat as Draymond in the social media is we heard he punched Steve Kerr. We can imagine what it looks like, but if you actually saw what it looked like, big old Jordan punching punk-ass Steve Kerr, and we saw the video, people would change their opinion of Michael Jordan. They'd be like, "Man, this dude is a thug. He's this."
Do you think it was a cheap shot?
But right,
I think it was a cheap shot only because I believe, dude, he said he don't want nothing, man. You got his face. He created space, but then he backed up. That's to me, that's a dude saying, "I don't fight you, man. I don't want."
No. See your arms. See what your hands are. That means I don't want to fight. A push means I'm with it.
He pushed.
Can be interpreted as.
Watch this. He pushed him, backed up, and dropped his head like this. He didn't even keep staring him down. That is a sign of I don't want this. I don't want the smoke. Otherwise, he would have pushed him and stepped up on him. He didn't push his chest out. He pushed him like, I'm not gonna let you stay in my face. I got to create space. But he backed up and he was not aggressive. He looked down and Draymond stole him. So that was wrong. That was wrong for that, whatever. But at the same time, it's in the framework of a sporting event or sporting practice. Tempers flare. That's between him and Jordan Poole. That's between the team. That's in-house business. Should have leaked out. But Golden State, you look really bad letting the public know you're trying to find the person that leaked it. I don't want to get too political, but that's like with Trump, trying to find out who leaked all my business. Who let everybody know that I did this messed up stuff? I want everybody to find out. That sounds bad, man. Like, who told on me? That's not, you lost that. I understand that you want to make sure it doesn't happen again. You want to do it, but the public should not know that you're searching for the snitch. That just makes you look bad. That's just me.
Yeah, they are prosecuting him a lot harder than they are Draymond Green. ETP, I give it to you. And I'm going to frame it up like this for you, ETP, because when I look at the video, I go deeper. I see, what I see is team dark skin versus team light skin.
Stop saying that stupid shit.
I know y'all was mad, man. Y'all seen your boy team light skin get hit like that. ETP, man, what's up, bro? Just say something tough.
So that's how you open.
Like
that's how you open the question. Like that's how you ask me the question. This is how we start this. Like,
my bad.
I'm ready to argue today, but like you're offering up something a little bit higher.
My bad, man. My bad. I had to.
So
the people wanted me to.
The thing that's craziest about this is the video getting out changes everything. It changes everything, right? If it didn't, we'd all speculate like, yeah, teammates get into it. It happens in the NFL training camp. Like this is all like fights happen, right. Things get heated. The problem is the video got out. The problem, there's many problems. Draymond Green got suspended in 2018 for just like making KD sad for a game. Right, like he didn't even. There was no hands put. There was no assault on anybody, and he was suspended for conduct detrimental to the team for a game. Right. This footage, your man basically hit a defenseless coworker, assaulted him.
Yeah,
and they gave him the option to step away from the team for a little while, no suspension, let him go get his his championship ring. At the ring
that's
presentation
the reason they
ceremony.
Said they didn't suspend him.
Yeah, like there's so many problems with it. But the thing that's even crazier is, people are like, oh, we're making a big deal out of it. It happens all the time. Blah 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 blah. But because the video got out, because it made it out of the house, now all season, I can only imagine. The amount of trash talking that happens in sports and then at the pro sports level. Like if I'm on the court and Jordan Poole's on the court. Right. All I'm talking about is how he got his ass beat by his teammate, right. And it's a long conversation, and it's going to last 48 minutes.
Yeah, Poole can't
and until he hits me, basically, that's what's going to happen. He's going to deal with that for 82 games.
Yeah, anytime Draymond gets tough, someone say, "Hey, Jordan Poole, don't bring that over here."
Like it's gonna be bulletin board material for 82 games, and it's going to be utilized, and it could be the factor that prevents them from winning a championship. Like
It's a
literally,
distraction. It will be a
could be the
distraction.
biggest distraction because why would you not? That's the only thing I would be saying at all on the court for 48 minutes to both of them the entire time.
Yeah.
And Draymond Green shows that he can't really deal with people getting under his skin. And now the other thing is what also leaked allegedly was what Jordan Poole was saying around him not being able to get his contract. Like now you even know what the bulletin board material is. Like we know all the triggers that's going to get you to try to punch me in my face or kick me in my nuts or do all the things that you've done in the past. And every game you're going to have to deal with it. And we're going to have to see how psychologically composed you can be to get yourself to another championship.
In a weird way, this might get Draymond Green paid because the powers would be like, all right, we're gonna stop messing with Draymond. Draymond punching your mouth. Look,
or it ends up on the Lakers.
That's a whole different thing. Talk about come back home. Like that home over there is crazy.
The Nets.
So I would say this: I was all prepared to defend Draymond Green's actions in the moment because honestly, bro, I fought almost every teammate I've ever played with. I fought every best friend that I had. We didn't fought. Whether it was just over a video game or, bro, my whole thing is I don't like to be touched. So all my friends know it. And if you do it, but Draymond Green is that type of dude that, is like that. He's a live wire. I was all prepared to defend him, but ETP, you make a good point here, man. Is that the fact that it was, but my thing is now I see why Golden State is addressing the leaker because no one had to see this. I think a good team is built on conflict. I think a good team is built on we gonna fight and we gonna drink a beer within an hour of one another.
Can Poole drink a beer with him after being so long like that?
I don't think they're drinking any beers together.
I think it's not going to be an hour later. I think he's got to be a week.
The only thing Poole can do is punch him in the warm-up line in front of everybody. And that's the only way they can get to speaking terms to me.
Well, what was it? Rondo and Ray Allen had a boxing match.
But nobody saw it.
And nobody saw it. But what I'm saying is
that's why
they settled it. They settled it in house and they had a boxing match. Maybe they go out and they have a boxing match. I don't know.
Yo, somebody got to do something. And my thing is this: is that Golden State seems petty, but you're kind of making the point, Big Flo Show, of why they're being so aggressive against the leaker. Because if nobody saw this. Bro, it goes in the same category as the fairy tale of Steve Kerr and Michael Jordan. Everybody knows it happened. People affirm indeed that it did happen. But if you didn't see it, it's like, oh well, Jordan punched Steve Kerr. Boys will be boys.
But
it just looked bad.
In that scenario, even one of the someone from the audience, Scott Bibbs, even reminded us. Steve Kerr hit him first. Like they were going at it in practice physically. It wasn't just talking, and then I'm going to throw a punch at you.
I would argue that Jordan Poole hit Draymond first too, below the belt with that statement because Draymond's show was like, oh hell to the
hit him in the pockets.
Hit him in his pockets. Let's hop on to another one because that is, come back home in terms of if they would have kept that inside, if home would have been home and protected, this wouldn't be a thing. But this next particular story, which is Davante Adams versus the cameraman, you knew that was going to leak. You knew that there were cameras watching it. I mean, the cameraman himself had a camera. But I'm just of the belief, man, that it ain't that serious. The cameraman is putting himself in position where he's in his way while he's walking up the tunnel. About 38 seconds after Davante Adams is a part of a game and a part of a play that is going to piss you off as a football player. Why? Because we go back to the great philosopher, Professor Deion himself. Right? Everything in life costs you something. You got to give something to get the payment that you have to put in order to get in that position. Davante Adams leaving Green Bay. He got paid for it, absolutely. But everybody's saying, man, you crazy. So the offseason that he put in, right? And you're not winning. emotionally and physically. You're in that. So you cross paths with somebody that paid significantly less. He wasn't even the cameraman. He was the assistant to the cameraman. He wasn't even the piccolo player. He's the man next to the piccolo player. But if y'all don't know that reference, you too young. But Davante Adams pushes this cameraman or the assistant to the cameraman, and now he is facing charges. He's certainly facing the court of public opinion, and he's gonna have to write a check. What do you guys think quickly, man? Because I hate that we have to talk about it, but in fact, it was captured and it's going to be a point of discussion. And, you know, it does kind of connect to Deion's speech because the cameraman has a job to do.
The cameraman had a job to do because that cameraman will never be hired to film a football game again if anybody has anything to say about it now that he's pressing charges.
Facts.
So I think it was a block.
Big Flow Show.
I don't believe it was a charge. I mean, if I'm walking out, I had the right of way, and you come by with a big ass piece of metal, cut me off. Your feet weren't set. It was a block.
It's a block.
That was a
Not
block.
charge.
Blow the whistle. I don't know how you could try to get somebody for that. I just think people and those paparazzi people, like, you know, we love the pictures, but we hate the paparazzi. I'm pissed off and I'm charging off the field. What makes you think you should just get in front of me right now? And I'm supposed to just stop and let you go by? Nah. It wasn't like Davante Adams leaned forward and pushed him. I would argue he almost defended himself, and I think he only pushed the bar. Like the bar was in front of him and sitting there. The cameraman shouldn't have to. I mean, the Davante Adams shouldn't have to stop so that the cameraman can run and set up get the fuck out the way, man. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get up out of here. He pushed him down. Take that as a lesson.
Yeah, I'm with you.
They said he went to the hospital and
of course
he had concussion symptoms, but he would have still been in the game playing quarterback.
Protocol. Yeah.
Hey, so I wasn't privy.
He would have passed those protocols.
I wasn't privy to the call, but I think the call went something like this: cameraman hits the ground, rolls, hears the response, sees the response team from the Raiders come like, "Hey, you okay, man? Sorry, this." He calls his attorney. What do you think I should do? And again, I'm not there. I'm speculating for certain, but I can hear the attorney say something like, you need to go to the hospital. Make sure that there is sufficient evidence that you were hurt. Wink. Make sure you send me that information and make sure you got your direct deposit ready. That account needs to be ready for the wire because it's going to come soon, player. We going to Sizzler. We going to Sizzler. They're going to Sizzler on Davante
I'm just
Adams.
waiting for the press
There's
conference.
no more carrying camera gear for you, my friend.
Yeah,
You've
it's not official till he does the press conference with the neck brace on. That's when it's over.
I can no longer do my job.
When he's on the Today Show. That's when you know.
And he's like, I can't turn my neck.
Hey, let's get into another topic, man. From this episode of Come Back Home, there's been a documentary that is now being on. It's on Netflix. You know that thing called Netflix. And so I'm the only one that hasn't seen it. The two of you have seen it, and I haven't seen it because the way my technology is set up, the way my technological aptitude is set up, I don't know what no Netflix is. So I'm trying to get there. I'm gonna use my wife's Netflix. If I'm allowed to do that. I think you got to get a blood test and a retina scan, and then I can use her Netflix.
Typically, there's only one family Netflix, but let's just keep going.
We ain't got that. We ain't got
I don't even know the person whose Netflix account I use.
Oh, hold on.
Never even met him.
Hey, man, come on, man. Hold up. You got to scratch that part. Hey, producer, edit that out, man. Edit that out. I don't think that's legal. We're not going to be illegal on here. But this team is called the Redeem Team. And it was the Redeem Team is when we think of this context, right, of Come Back Home, we think of how the lecture started. Everything in life costs you something. You got to give something to get something. And the Redeem Team connected to the Dream Team is this. The Dream Team showed the whole world that we were head and shoulders above the rest when it came to basketball. But the thing that cost us is that the rest of the world was like, not so fast, my friend. We're going to invest in this game called basketball and make it global. The Redeem team was in charge of bringing the goal back home. Did I set that up okay? Having no Netflix and not have seen it? I'll let the two savants that are Netflix guys, you guys could do more with it, but how did the Redeem Team documentary, how did they do it? I started with you first last time, Big Flow Show. Keep me honest.
There you go. You know what? You just throw it out there. We can police.
I'm just gonna throw it up there. You two Netflixers, tell us about this documentary. Convince me that it's worth my time to go borrow somebody's account or learn what Netflix is to see this documentary. What say you?
I'm gonna let ETP sell. He didn't like it as much as I did, but I'm gonna fill in the holes when he goes.
Okay.
So what I love the reminder of it, because it was a good resurgence of the USA basketball. Like after going through, because you had the Dream Team, and that was just like world domination. It was amazing. Like I remember where I was watching the games, but then like 96, it was like, oh yeah, that thing's happening. 2000, I don't even really remember who was on the team. 2004, I remember watching them get waxed by Ginobili and the rest of the Argentinian national team, and Euro stepping all over them. So there was just like it was like a huge canyon of like the popularity of USA basketball, because the Dream Team was like, they set a precedent that afterwards for 3, 4, 5 for Olympics, you couldn't really put together a new team that was built with legends like that. So this 2008 team, now you had like legends in the making, right? Like you had LeBron, you had Dwayne Wade, who I won't fully give it away, but Dwayne Wade was the MVP of that team. Like off the bench, he scored the most. He was playing like 18 minutes, scored 16 points a game, was shooting like 70% from the field, coming off an injury.
Yeah.
Like I was working at Converse at the time. He was a Converse athlete. It was like everybody was going crazy. The documentary doesn't really tell the full story of that, but Kobe gets, it shines a good light on Kobe. It tells a lot of the good story. Like it's just interesting to see how they really had to rebuild. Like you thought that, that's why for the 3, 4 Olympics, it was like, oh, we'll just cobble together a team. They'll come and they'll show up. We'll give them their jerseys and we'll go win a gold medal. Right. But the Dream Team set that precedent where all these other international teams, they started improving on their skills. They started investing in their programs, all of it. But ultimately,
it's always one. There's always
they had to invest, right? So
I mean, here's the thing: it's not giving it away, because everything that happens,
because what happened.
You're gonna say, "Oh yeah, I forgot. Oh yeah, I forgot this happened." There's no mystery of who won the Olympics and when they didn't, who was on the team. You just forget, and some of the faces kind of surprise you, like, "Oh damn, that dude was considered one of the best in the world." But I will say, if you look at the evolution of basketball, we used to go there with college players, and then the world got better, and our college players couldn't do it anymore. So then we said, all right, shit, we got to go to our pro players. The world got better, and then we found out we couldn't do it anymore. We can't dominate the world like that. Look at the NBA. NBA MVPs, have been foreign players, and 3 or 4 of the top, if not more, players in the NBA are foreign-born players right now. So I mean, even at the highest level, you still got foreign players. Now, what surprised me when you think about it is when you looked at it's like, man, even when we got everyone together and they bought in, even when we did that, we still had to turn it up another notch to be able to beat them. And it still wasn't really a domination the way we're used to seeing domination. The rest of the world can play basketball. What I want to address is a lot of what I've seen on the internet. Like this has got to put Kobe more in the GOAT conversation. That bothered me because I'm like, people just don't. I'm a LeBron fan, but people just.
Oh no, you don't say. Anybody that watches
I disclose, man. Some people this might be their first time listening.
Fair,
so I'm a LeBron fan, but like I think Kobe comes in there and he taught LeBron a work ethic. Now, I didn't realize this before, but all you ever hear about is how LeBron has a trainer and he works a full intense workout before every game and he does this, he does whatever. We got that from Kobe. Well, okay. Well, where did Kobe get 100% of his game from? He got that from Jordan. Jordan probably, got some stuff from Dr. J. Like everyone gets from somebody in all these places around the country. I mean, the game evolves. So I think using this as like a proof of who's the best as a snapshot, I think is kind of silly. But I do say that I was very impressed. I never was a Kobe fan. I've always respected the hell out of Kobe's game. And I never was a Kobe fan of just him and how he was. But like, since his death, I've come to respect him more and more, just the where I start to really see the behind the scenes of how things work with him. But I don't know.
Don't sugarcoat it. Don't sugarcoat it. Because I've had this conversation with a lot of people. You could not stand Kobe. You either, if you're a basketball fan, you either love Kobe or you could not stand Kobe at all. Like,
I couldn't stand Kobe. I'm on that.
Yeah,
that's the shirt I had. I bought that shirt on the left. I couldn't stand
and that's what I'm saying. Like he died
because Kobe ain't swag. He's not.
Nah, Kobe is not swag. But that's the whole thing with Kobe. Like, look, I have. Like same as you, full complete respect. When he passed, like it affected me personally. I was like, this is for somebody that I can't stand. I'm kind of sad about this. Right. But everybody from after he passed, Celtics fans, I'm from Boston. Celtics fans, like, oh my God, man, Kobe, greatest ever. But dog, you hated Kobe just because
I did hate Kobe. But the more you get to learn about Kobe.
Yeah, it's respect. It's respect, but let's not start like romanticizing how much we love
Do you
Kobe.
Feel like I went that far? Is that
no? But yes, because you were like, I wasn't really that much of a fan. No, you hated him. You hated Kobe with all of your energy in your life.
Like Kobe is kids might be listening to the show. He's dead now. I don't want to say anything like that.
Yeah,
but it's not throwing nothing on the grave. I'm just saying.
Kobe became a topic like that. It was so taboo that you couldn't say anything negative about him. So I was also in that camp. I hated, despised, couldn't stomach Kobe because I loved Mike so much. And all of us tried to pattern our game and imitate Mike, how I walk, how I wore my leg sleeve, how I chewed my gum. But I failed miserably. So here's this dude that is, somewhat American, somewhat European, grew up over there, grew up over here, then was coddled. And I'm like, this dude is the one that was able to do it. So yeah, I hated him. But when he died, they did something they talked about because it was on the heels of, he died shortly after, I think it was LeBron or somebody was about to break a record. And he died literally like 2 days afterwards. And they had clip after clip after clip. And they were talking about his ability and his hard work, but they also talked about when he was born. So 2 days before he died is when I the first time I was made or came to realize that he was born, or my son, firstborn, was born on the same day as Kobe. And so I then, after his death and how the narrative has changed, Kobe, man, I send myself all of these Kobeisms, all these videos, all of him in these interviews. And I show my son because his work ethic was insane. And you guys, it sounds like it's saying the Redeem Team documentary captures that. I would ask both of you, having seen the Redeem Team,
but it also humanizes them. Like
it does.
I think that's the balance.
That's good stuff. I would ask you guys this: knowing what we know about the NBA and its international appeal now, knowing that, as you said, Big Flo Show, of the 5 top players in the NBA, at least 3 of them were born on foreign soil. And then comparing it to the Redeem Team and that concept of come back home and grabbing the gold medal, where do you think we are in the whole spectrum of domestic USA basketball versus the world?
We're still by far the best as a collective, but it's kind of like the SEC and some of these other conferences. The SEC is the best conference, but then when you go bowl season comes up, you're like, okay, why don't they win across the board, dominate everywhere? They're better, but it's not like they're that much better. So we're better. We still have individual players. But I was surprised watching this and how much of a difficulty we had covering people. Like watching Spain, watching Greece, watching other teams like Argentina. Like, damn, we can't.
How'd you say that country? Say that one more time.
Argentina?
Is it Orange?
Argentina?
Okay, cool. Since you be messing with me how I speak, I found one.
Did I say that wrong?
You said it kind of
I'm
like
talking to
Deion.
E. I'm not
You ain't
talking to you.
swag though.
I'm
You ain't
talking to
swag.
E.
You said it
I
like
thought I
Deion,
said
but you ain't
that.
swag.
I have a science
Argentina?
of fiction. I got a science of fiction. But at the end of the day, like, it's surprising because you start thinking these people are just going to be like orange cones out there, and they're not. And they're taking you to the cup, and they're throwing oops on you, and they're hitting threes. They're doing step backs. You can't hold them. It's like, man, these dudes are catching up. But I just think if there was more that were good, there'd be more than in the NBA. At the end of the day, the NBA would love nothing more than to have some people that hit in different markets to flood the NBA with those markets. But they're not. There's choice ones, but at the elite level, they're there too. If you grow up playing basketball your whole life against people, it doesn't matter what country you're from,
Yeah,
Everything more
very
of that.
fair. Very fair. And I'll leave it there. And you guys have inspired me, and hopefully you've inspired some of the people in the live audience to go and watch the Redeem Team. You can find it on Netflix. And if you don't have an account, just holler at ETP and he'll get you there somehow, some way. I'm gonna go see the Redeem Team. How long is it? How long is the show?
90 minutes, man. Come on, you make it too
Oh,
much.
90 minutes? Oh, I got that. I got 90 minutes in me. I got that.
Yeah, your wife will let you use her account. If not, I'll hook you up.
You hook me up? All right, cool, bro.
I got you.
Now how do they make money then if people get hooked up? That's a whole different
Well,
story.
you
telling me we traded in our blockbuster cars for this? You know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway, let's get to another one, man, because I think we should end the show here because it's a protected class of people. That they have now added another group. Say again.
If we're talking about a protected class, I gotta mute my microphone because I don't have the capital. I don't want to get canceled, so I'm just gonna mute
I love
myself.
how you censored yourself.
Oh, you censored. Hey, you better censor yourself.
We're on a delay.
I don't want to get involved in this conversation.
We're gonna talk about a protected class of people. Hold on, I might be going a different direction than you think.
I'm scared.
We have added it to the list of protected classes of people, and they are a group of people that you better be careful. You talk about cancel culture. Cancel culture. There you go. That was my version of being Florida. If you talk about cancel culture, if you violate this group of people, you're done. America, how do we get to this point where you can't touch the quarterback?
Oh gosh. I'm so nervous. I was like, I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm so nervous. I like doing this show so much.
The quarterback class has been protected. We have seen arguably the worst roughing the passer calls known to mankind. It started with this whole Tom Brady thing, and I get it on the heels of Tua being someone that was concussed and just put out there as though he was not a meaningful human being just because he could then be the best option at quarterback, and we saw how that ended. And then we could easily understand why Teddy Bridgewater, who didn't look concussed, is being treated as though he's been concussed and put in a concussion protocol because Miami said, hey, fool me once, but you ain't gonna fool me again. We finna take every step of the protocol. But there has been this new expansion of rules such that the quarterback is a protected class in America. Kevin Hart did a skit a few years ago, I think it was on one of the TV shows that was pretty funny, but it was almost foreshadowing, where he's got I think Mike Strahan was on that. So which one is Michael Strahan on? Whatever the NFL crew is, they're laying him down. He says, I like to be warm. You tuck me in. And he wanted to be very specific as to how you could tackle him. And it might have been foreshadowing. Does life imitate art, or does art imitate life? Because Kevin Hart's skit seems to be a reality. The one with Derek Carr, where the defensive lineman from Kansas City is a strip sack. He puts one hand down, so because you can't land on the quarterback, no. While getting the ball and recovered it with a minute something left in half, they would have had an opportunity to score. Instead, that continues the drive with the roughing the passer. The Raiders go and score a field goal before half. The referees, because remember, back to the great lecture of Dr. Deion PrimeTime Sanders, we started with a lecture that talked about everybody has a price to pay, and he included the referees because they have a job to do. These referees in the game of football have created a new protected class, and in doing so are impacting the game negatively. And I don't know that the naysayers that turned off the TV when they like, I can't watch nobody get CTE, as though you could actually see somebody get CTE. I don't know of the moms that are coddled in their suburban, moms and dads, actually. It wasn't just moms, in their suburban American homes that said, I would never let my son play such a Neanderthal sport. I don't know that they are being appeased enough to watch the game, but those purists, those of us who stuck by the game, those of us who committed our life to the game, those of us that had to give in order to get something that have supported this game of football, we are bamboozled, and I'm pissed off. The game ain't what it used to be. And I can't start with you, Big Flo Show. I know what you're going to say as a defensive lineman. I got to start with you on this one, ETP. Has the referee contingency gone too far? Or is it in response to things like what we saw with Tua, and they have it just right? What say you?
It's all messed up, because the issue has been, it's not about, like, I understand they're trying to make things more protective and safer on the field. I don't think that there's anything really that needed to change in terms of officiating before or after Tua, before or after any other concussion, before and after any other head injury. In terms of the quarterback is, like you said, they've been a protected class for at least the past 5, 6, 7 years, maybe longer, in terms of like being truly almost like a flag player while everybody else is playing tackle. But the issue is, I mean, the other part of the story is that they've changed the protocols in terms of evaluation. So before this whole situation bubbled up, this, what do they call it, ataxia, where if you're off balance,
that's like
that was not part of concussion protocol in the past.
Like the twisties. That's like the twisties in football.
Yeah, but if you're stumbling, and off balance,
serious disease. I'm surprised they're using the term. It's like ALS
or symptoms, ataxia symptoms, I guess. Right?
Yeah, it's a really bad disease though. Horrible.
But the idea of being disoriented, uncoordinated, off balance, those were never part of concussion protocol, apparently. Now it's part of the protocols, which that is a good thing. But that being said, changing the rule, I mean, they basically dictated the outcome of 3 games directly in the course of a week. So I don't know what Vegas is doing right now, and I don't mean the Raiders, but I mean the sports book. Like, the way that this is affecting the game is causing problems, and I'm surprised that there's actually not more concern about it.
I'll sit kicking at you, a Big Flo Show. Before I do, I'll say this, because that's the term. When you get to the quarterback on a blitz, or you get to the quarterback on a defensive pass rush, they call that getting home. On this episode of Come Back Home, nobody really knows the right way to get home, meaning to get to the quarterback. And I think it's going to impact, like I just don't know what you do as a defensive lineman. In that Raiders game, the Kansas City player did everything that you could possibly do. He beat the offensive lineman over him. He used his hands and got the strip sack in order to get the ball out, dislodge the ball. He then, on his way down, put one hand on the ground to make sure that the full brunt of his weight did not land on Derek Carr. With the other hand, he was able to secure the possession for his team. And how was he met with that? Example of getting home, roughing the passer. Now, defensive lineman, man, to be able to do that is kind of like a freaking a raccoon to be able to do that. Like, that's amazing to be able to be that big, be that nimble. And
never heard that as a compliment, but okay.
Yeah, you guys kind of like a raccoon.
The fighting raccoons. Like, that's good. Fighting raccoons. So, coming out of garbage can. Let's go. Okay.
I mean, your ability to do all that is pretty impressive, man. So, but what will you do as a defensive lineman, man? How do you play the game? And I see my man. What's up, Q Sharperson? He's talking about you ain't swag. You're a little late. We went in on that, man. So make sure you listen to the whole thing. But I kick it to you, Big Flow Show, and I ask,
I think what they're asking defenders in general these days is just outlandish. The defensive back has a wide receiver that's going to catch a ball and duck down low. You have to play dodgeball with his helmet and still tackle somebody who's not trying to go down. And so I feel like if you're going to be this way with a quarterback, we need to go back. I feel like they've gone away from in the grass. Remember for a while they called in the grass?
Yeah. So if they thought that it was a sure tackle, they would just blow the whistle. Yeah.
They would blow the whistle, and they went away from that, right? So now we have these guys that you can't, they run full speed downfield, and as soon as they decide to slide, you have to magically come up. Then in the college game, you had the guy who's in Pittsburgh now. He fakes a slide, and then he keeps it running. So, there are these tough situations. You're trying to be the 300-pound man that is nimble, fight through, get to this quarterback. You can't touch it below the knees. You can't touch his helmet.
Mm-hmm.
When you grab him and you fling him down, even though he's trying to keep his balance, you better not let him hit the ground too hard. If you fall on top of him, break your arms to make sure that you break the fall so you don't touch him. And even then, if it looks bad, it's a flag. And I just think it's too much. I think it should be two-hand touch on the quarterback. Practice you like I got him. It has to be at this point. I got him, because a guy like Fields, I wish they would have called roughing the passer. This dude could barely get up. They let him go. They don't do it. They don't do it consistently. It depends on who the quarterback is.
Yeah.
If the quarterback is a runner, they don't call it the same way. But at some point, it's beating up the game. I mean, you go in there and your extended drives. I know as a fan, I love it when you see it incomplete. You see that flag in the backfield. You're like, woo, roughing the. You hope that your quarterback got smacked because it ain't that bad. It's like getting bad service. You're gonna get a free meal at the restaurant. Like, all right, cool. Oh, they messed up my food. All right, my stuff's free. That's kind of ways. All right, cool. I get a do-over. They touch the quarterback's helmet. They touch his chin strap. All right, cool. It's beating the game up. You're asking too much of these D linemen. That's why when these dudes, when you do get a chance to, the quarterback throws a pick and he tries to come and make the tackle, people are like, I got to kill him. This is my one chance to kill this guy. I got to kill him.
Yeah, I've done all of this work. We talked about, from our leading lecture.
Paid the price.
The defensive linemen have paid the price. And that's what I'm tripping off of is, man, you have to pay to play this game at the level that we play it. I call them raccoons, but seriously, man, 300+ pound grown men that have amazing speed, amazing explosion, amazing skill, and they get to the point of attack, getting home, as they call it, and they are penalized for just playing football. So I think that we got to walk it back and figure out where the middle ground is. I understand that the NFL, with the lawsuit looming over his head and with probably the upcoming and almost imminent lawsuits that it will face related to this Tua thing, right? It's like, I get it, but the game is going to be the game. I'm sorry. Ain't nothing you can do to completely take all risk out of this football.
Make it worth the hit. Bless
so we'll leave it there, man. We're gonna get out of here, man. Let's go individual style 101. Everybody's got the ball for a quick hit in sports, business, entertainment. You guys tell me what you want. Before I do that, I'm gonna ask again, like we do every week. Ask humbly. This is the Come Back Home episode. And my man Q Sharp came on talking about you ain't swag. We did address that, and we addressed some other things. So we're gonna ask you humbly, like we ask you every week. Please please comment, please share, please tag a friend, please tag even a foe if you have them. Please tag anybody that you know, and please subscribe to both the YouTube channel and the podcast. That's how we can get in more people's hands. It'll cost you 0.8 seconds, but you'll be doing a world of wonder for us. So like, comment, share, like, comment, share, like, comment, share. And if you don't, you ain't swag. Let's go out like this, man. We all get the ball. I'll start with you, Big Flow Show. Anything in sports, business, entertainment you want to take us home with? Quick hitters before we get out of here. What you got?
I'm going to take my time to shout somebody out.
Okay.
The football brotherhood is something that you have with sports, and I think you have an instant respect for somebody that you meet that's been through it. Many years ago, I went to Sin City, went to Vegas, met a brother that played football with another one of my friends, played with you as well at the Browns, a guy named Eric Rett, and I just want to give him a shout out.
For met this guy, Broward County finest, baby, E-Rett.
Eric Rett spelled E-R-R-I-C-T, but we're not going to even go there. Eric Rett.
I feel like you getting on Florida stuff.
I got to get on my little Florida guy because he'll get on me. But met this guy Found out he lives in South Florida. Keep this story kind of quick. Got his number exchanged like you always do. Get everybody's number. You never think to call him. I think we figured it was Hurricane Wilma or something like that. Hit Florida. My parents out of power 4 or 5 days. I haven't heard from him. Call this guy Eric up, who I've just met at Vegas for a weekend. He runs over, checks on my parents, make sure they're all right. Because my parents ain't called me like they were supposed to call me. But anyway, comes in, brings a generator, gets my parents' power back up, and does whatever. So my parents ask about him all the time. Fast forward, I talk to him here and there. Talk to my parents. My dad's 83. My mom is younger than that. I'll leave her age off of this, but they old. So you know how it is when you have a smoke detector and they need a battery to be chirped. We going on a month now. Every time I talk to my parents, I hear keep in the background, driving me crazy. My parents, they act like they can't hear it, but it's piercing. I said, man, Eric, listen, if you wouldn't mind, Eric lives about 5 minutes from my parents, 5-10 minutes from my parents. If you wouldn't mind, man, my parents would love to see you. My mom just had cataract surgery. She's sitting in the house. They're not doing much. If you could go change this battery for me, man, that would really appreciate you. So Eric, unannounced, knocks on my parents' door with a battery in hand. I get a picture this morning. He goes there. He changes it. My parents smiling from ear to ear. So awesome. Shout out to Eric, man. You know what? I don't get to see my parents as much as I'd like to. But for a brother that I met in Vegas one time 15 years ago, come through for me, man. And I put that on the brotherhood of sports because when you meet each other, you have an instant bond. But shout out to South Florida. You're 1-1 now with great people. For Bobby, you all taking the L, right? But now you done brought Broward County back, man.
Hey, that's it. Hey, honestly,
shout out to you.
More stories like that need to be told.
And I ain't got to hear that damn chirping no more when I come up. I'll call you more often, Mom and Dad. I'll call you more often.
I like it, man. I like it. And Eric Rhett, who I did play with and who was a beast at University of Florida. He was the man. He was the next step after I'm tripping. The Dallas Cowboys. I'm tripping. Emmitt Smith. He was the next great one, really, man, from University of Florida. But he is from a long line of amazing athletes. Eric Rhett was just as good, and I would argue a better wrestler than he was a football player.
Yeah.
But the Rhett family is a big family in Broward County that, one of them I think is still running the Fort Lauderdale Track Club that I ran for. So a great family. Great to hear that happened, man. Broward County represent. ETP, the ball's in your court, man. Take us home. Something sports, business, entertainment. Before we get out of here, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll just say if you have any relatives that live near me that need a battery changed in their smoke detector, you could absolutely not call me because I'm not gonna help you. So.
See?
That's Boston.
That's Boston. That's that Northern hospitality, baby. So, all right, last thing.
DoorDash. Somebody.
Yeah, right. I'll help you out. I'll get you. I know some TaskRabbit, Postmates, all that. So just do a quick baseball roundup. It is the Major League Baseball playoffs for anybody that does care.
October, Mr. October. So you're gonna be Mr. October and give us our baseball updates. Let's do it.
Yeah, so we've actually missed a lot of baseball's happened just in the past week because they've expanded the playoffs. Unfortunately, they don't make pitchers hit anymore, which I'm a little bit disturbed about. Just remembered that or realized that during this playoffs, but they expanded the playoffs, so there's 12 teams instead of 8. Blue Jays went out with a bang. They lost an 8-1 lead to the Mariners, so they got knocked out in the first round.
8-1. They lost an 8-1 lead. That sounds impossible. But
yeah, and then the Mets outdid them by losing at home and breaking their fans' hearts as they do all the time. And they lost in the wild card round as well to the Padres. Actually lost after they made the umpires check the pitcher for illegal substances because they were getting beat so bad that they knew it was illegal.
Like Vaseline?
He had nothing. He had nothing. Well, they didn't find anything.
The thing was so bad is the ump come, he touch you all in your ear.
Yeah, he was like, it was like,
that's so weird, man.
I hope that ump gets paid a lot of money, but that's nasty. That's not.
It was a little intrusive. Yeah. It was like worse than like when you go in the back room when you go to TSA, like not when you get checked out in the airport. It's like we gotta take you to the back room.
Not quite prostate check, but you know what I'm saying? We had to get it right.
Wow.
It's terrible, all in your ears. Sweat.
Exactly. So that was a wild card round. Now we're on to the division series. Padres and Dodgers are tied 1-1. Padres, they had pretty much a problem. Their star player was suspended for the year. Tatis for performance enhancing drugs. Nobody expected him to get this far. They're tied 1-1 against the Dodgers, who had 111 wins in the regular season. So obviously a favorite to take it all the way. Atlanta and Philly is tied 1-1 as well in the National League. And then in the American League, Astros are up 2-0 on the Mariners. And Yankees and the Guardians, Yankees are up 1-0. They didn't play yesterday because of weather we had up here in the New York area. So they're playing tonight. And hopefully Aaron Judge will get his contract when he takes them a little bit further. And what I am most proud to say, the Red Sox have not lost a game in this postseason. Undefeated.
Because they ain't swag.
Because they're not even in it. So
they not swag.
They're not swag.
I'm going to go out with this one, man. Thank you for the baseball update. I'll go out with this one. The U.S. women's national team, the ones that we argue for, we talked about pay quality. We argued that y'all got paid. And for the first time in 5 years, they lost 2 in a row. They lost to a Spanish team that had a whole bunch of replacements on it. So it's a team from Spain, not Spanish, as we talk about it linguistically. They lost to Spain, and Spain they were down several players. And so I'm going to say it here. Come on, ladies, let's get it together. We started with my man, PrimeTime, the professor, in there again. Think about that pep talk. Everything in life costs you something. You got to give something to get something, right? And then he goes on to say, you have to pay to play this game at the level that we play it. That is a broader message that I hope you guys all use in life. Here at the Ball Hawk Sports Talk is sports business and entertainment. In order for you to make that statement, you got to make the payments. In order for you to achieve any recognizable level of success, you got to pay to play the game at the level that we play it, the elite level. So we're ending exactly where we started. Whether you love Prime, you hate Prime, or you're somewhere in between. Today's episode of Come Back Home, when we're talking about that homecoming, we talk about the elite level of accomplishment. Make sure you're willing to put in the payment. Make sure you're willing to make the sacrifices. And then you can expect that those who don't won't reach your levels. This has been the Ball Hawk Sports Talk. I am your boy, B. Brown, ESQ, a.k.a. the Ball Hawk, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, a.k.a. Mr. Excessive Celebration, a.k.a. Barazy. When you're on the highways and byways going to these homecoming games, be safe, because we want you back next week for the Ball Hawk Sports Talk, where sports, business, and entertainment collide. That is our show. And I am Swag. We is out. Peace.